Welcome back for day number 2 and key number 2 to stressing less. I hope you had time to practice the key that I gave you yesterday, which was focusing more on the good than the bad, or what is right than what is wrong. So continue that practice today and onwards. Really be mindful of that. So the second key is along the same lines. It's about our thoughts and the way we think. But this one is more of what we are thinking and acknowledging how our thoughts work. Now, you may have heard of something called ANTS, or autonomic negative thinking. Our brains are designed to usually think about the worst case scenario to keep us safe. And we needed that when we were living in nature and afraid of tigers. We had to look at the worst possible scenario where that, to keep us safe so the tiger doesn't come and get us. So we would think of all the possibilities of things that could happen. We continue to do that today. But we have to be mindful of our mind's natural tendency to go towards the negative. Because when it does, that tends to bring our state of well-being down and can add to our stress when we are thinking more of these negative thoughts than is healthy. Now, I love this illustration. Picture all of the mattresses. Picture the mattresses as our thoughts, okay? Now, this truck, if it's going down a bumpy road, so think of, the bumpy road is different situations you're facing throughout the day, okay? It's going down the road. If there's just a few mattresses on there, so let's say a few negative thoughts, when you hit bumps along the way, it's going to be okay. It's not all going to fall apart, right? It's sturdy. But look at if you have mounting negative thoughts and all day, these have been building up. When you hit a bump or someone does something, it's going to knock you off. You're less stable, right? Because you're drained from all these negative thoughts. So think of that. Throughout the day, I want you to start reflecting on what your thoughts are. Now, this is a bit more challenging, but awareness is the first key to change. Now, there are several different autonomic negative thoughts, categories or thoughts that we have. And I'm going to share the two as parents I feel we fall into that I think we can change, that can really help us see things differently and maybe have these thoughts not drain us or take us into that state that we don't feel well. The first one is the should haves and could haves. I feel as parents, we do this often. I should have done this. Your son has or daughter has a meltdown. Oh, I wish I should have done this and maybe this wouldn't have happened, right? And it's good to reflect on things and learn from them and change them in the future. But when we use the words should have and could have, that's telling ourselves that we were wrong, and it's making us feel bad about it. It's making us feel guilt and shame. And remember that chart that I showed you, the spectrum yesterday, those lower emotions, we don't want to feel that. So when something happens, if you find yourself going into the I should have or I could have, remember that in that moment, you did the best you could with what you had. Plain and simple. And a way to look at it where you're reflecting on it without feeling guilty about it is to say, and I do this with my kids, is after the fact, say, what could have been done differently? I love this approach. And I use this with my kids because if you look at the situation and think what could have been done differently, you're not saying, what could I have done differently? Because typically in situations, there's a lot of factors that take into account what happens. And when you only reflect on what I should have or could have done, it doesn't help the situation. So let me give you an example of this. My son sometimes has a hard time on Monday mornings feeling good about the day and feeling good about the rest of the week in school. He has a hard time. Sometimes he can hit that emotional state where he is just not happy on Monday mornings. And one Monday, he woke up and was just determined that he was going to have the worst morning ever. Very angry, yelling, very just not in a good mood. Now, I didn't address it as much that moment because he just wasn't in the mental state to address that. Try to keep him calm. We try to make it better. But, he went to school. When he came home, I sat him down and we talked about it. And, the first thing he said is, "I'm so sorry, Mom. I shouldn't have yelled at you." So he knew that wasn't the right response. So instead of me saying, "What should you have done?" Okay. I said, what could be different next time? Or what could we do different next time so you aren't yelling or you feel better? And you know what he said? He said, well, he thought about it. And he said, Mondays, I don't look forward to Mondays and I don't look forward to school. So maybe if I could have something for breakfast that I could look forward to, then that would make me feel better. And I thought that was such a great realization. He thought about it and said, how can I change this environment or the situation so my mind is looking forward to something instead of not looking forward to school? So allowing him to look at the situation and change it, not just himself, is such a key thing to look at how we can approach situations in a better way. And it takes the guilt and the shame away from us. And that's what we want to do for ourselves and for our children. So I want you to take those should haves and could haves, take them out of your vocabulary and replace them with what could be done differently, or what could we do differently, or what could occur differently, and go from there. And you'll feel better about the situation because you know what? Life is a learning process. I think we forget about that sometimes. We learn through living. The lessons in life happen by doing things, and we're not always going to do them perfectly. So let's be easy on ourselves. And when things don't go right, let's look at them in a nice observation, non-judgmental way and think, how could they be done differently without that should have, could have on your shoulder, making you feel bad or guilty. Instead, it's a learning lesson. What can we learn from it? Okay, I hope you can use this with yourself and your child. So that is key number 2. Get rid of the should haves, could haves, replace with what could be done differently next time. So take that key and enjoy, and I will see you tomorrow for the last key.